Okay, folks, I was not expecting to make another review video on Isom, but I happened to see a recommendation in my YouTube sidebar that said, hey, you might want to check out this Isom review by a guy under the auspices of Shook Earth Media. And I took a look at that video, and I haven't really gone and looked at anybody else's Isom reviews. But this guy pulled out a detail from ISOM number one that I completely missed throughout all of my read throughs. And I thought it was so impressive that I just wanted to highlight this just in case you've missed it, because if I missed it, you might have too. And it really does kind of at least pique curiosity into what Avery Silman's power set is. Now, Avery Silman, in his narration, when he's on the way down from the sky, having been thrown by Yaira into what will soon to be a taxi, he says, "This one is going to be tough. I've trained my body to do things people like me shouldn't be able to do." Now, that's an interesting word, trained. And, you do see him training on earlier in the book when he's basically punching a punching bag, and you see there's a track there as well that he's got installed at his ranch, so assuming he runs laps and whatnot. But you get the impression that what Avery's able to do is not just something that comes naturally, but it's also something that he can work at, something that he can earn or merit or achieve in the course of doing superheroic type stuff. So one of the things that I completely missed, and it was something that I blew off mainly because there wasn't really that much to it. It comes in the fight with Santuan. And in the fight with Santuan, there's a moment where Avery dodges him. Here, let me show you. There's a moment here where Santuan's throwing a punch, and Avery dodges him and kicks him from behind. Santuan falls, and Santuan says, "Since when could you do that?" To which Avery just responds, "Shut up and fight." But since when could you do that? That implies that whatever it was that happened up here is not something that Avery was able to do during any kind of past altercations, or at least it wasn't a power that he exhibited during either their past fight or any fight that they've had in the past, because one of the things that we're, still not tremendously clear on is whether or not they have a history together. Now, Eric July has basically said that, yes, you should take some of Santuan's comments and some of Avery's comments to imply that they have fought each other before, but the dialogue between them is so sketchy that it's hard to tell whether or not there were just mistakes made in the number of fights that they attribute to, what their encounters, or whether they actually do have a past history. So, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to see this nailed down just so that I don't have to feel like it's something kind of up in the air. But it's very, very interesting that Avery has exhibited something that he previously couldn't do before. Now, I never tied that to the aspect of the training because I never saw him do any training. However, Shook Earth Media, in his review, he went and pointed to this scene earlier in the fight with Yaira. And in the fight with Yaira, we see something a little bit akin to what Avery does to Santuan. Here we see Yaira have a burst of super speed and then grab Avery by the neck. And so it kind of makes you wonder at this point, or at least Shook Earth Media had the intuition to kind of put two and two together and say, this burst of super speed that Yaira exhibited, is that something that Avery was able to actually pick up on? And so that when Avery encounters Santuan for the second time, he is able to use that new super speed ability against Santuan. I never saw that. Now, one of the reasons I never saw that is because there's an explicit difference in the way that Yaira manifests her super speed versus the way that Avery does. You'll notice that she's got, in this scene, a crap ton of speed lines. She's got speed lines going. This scene, no speed lines. Now, does that mean that Avery only has like a kind of derivative minor form of the speed that Yaira exhibited? Or is this just the artist basically kind of, I don't know, copying out and saying, well, you know, the motion that Avery's doing is not the straight line motion that Yaira was doing, so I'm not gonna do any speed lines for that because the speed lines would have to wrap around and jerk around and whatnot. Well, I don't know. But it is that lack of similarity there where you can't really tell that this is the same or a similar power being manifested. And, well, and I say you can't tell, but apparently Shook Earth Media did tell. So good on him. That was an intuitive leap that I myself did not make. And it does lead you to wonder more about Avery's abilities, because when you realize that he may have the power to either adapt other powers to himself, having experienced it firsthand, then it also kind of makes it a little bit more helpful to explain how it is he won the fight with Santuan the second time around. You know, was it his combining his own strength that he had trained up with this new strength that he had absorbed or trained up from his encounter with Yaira? And is that is the combination of those two things something that made it possible for him to beat Santuan the second time, whereas he couldn't beat him the first time? It's interesting to raise those questions. The other thing that's kind of interesting is it makes you wonder about the bracelet that Avery has, because Avery's got that bracelet that the doctors could not get off from around his ankle, and that he was easily able to get off and move to his hand. Now, is that bracelet something that just houses the GPS by which his sister found him while he was wandering in his hospital clothes out in the streets? Or is that bracelet something that allows him to absorb the abilities of other heroes and villains that he encounters? That's another good question too. You don't know anything about the bracelet so as to say, maybe that's something that contributes to his power set as well. So all those are kinds of questions that I'm just amazed at how many times I just kind of blipped past that scene, and it never registered that when Santuan, and maybe this is a reason as well, because if Avery has a history with Santuan that extends years back, that is not just confined within the comic, then when Santuan says, "Since when could you do that?" you have a whole lot of when to cover. And so that when could have come, way, way, way back when that Avery actually learned whatever new skill it is. And he just didn't have the opportunity when Santuan and he fought the first time to exhibit that power. So I think that's another reason why I didn't pick up on that, is that I didn't see any particular need to attribute Santuan saying, "When did you learn to do that?" to the period of time between their first fight, or in the book, and their second fight. Now, if it was something that I had kind of tuned in to realize that this had to refer to that period of time exclusively, well then maybe I would have clued into the fact that he learned it from Yaira. But, as it was, because there's so much mystery, and because, the way that we're being fed information throughout the book is kind of haphazard and not as complete as it should be in some of the areas, then, yeah, it led me to interpret it in too broad a way to nail it down to Avery's learning that particular skill or power from Yaira. So that is what I wanted to show you, because I figured, hey, if this is something that I missed, it's probably something that a lot of my subscribers have missed as well, and, may as well fill you in. So kudos to Shook Earth Media to to his intuitive grasp of what was going on there. I mean, maybe he didn't realize that, Avery and Santuan had a backstory, and so he was able to fit his understanding of when Avery must have learned that power to that narrow time frame. And, I'll make sure that the link to that video is in the video description. So go ahead and watch that and see if you appreciate that review, as well as I hope you have appreciated mine. So thank you for watching. I'm Mike Partika. Please do subscribe if you haven't already. And who knows? Maybe there are more surprises about Isom #1 that somebody's got an idea of, and I just haven't picked up on yet. It'll be interesting to see. I will talk to you later.